Conspiracy people who think that people are giving signals, you just get off the stupid internet and stop with it. And he wasn't assassinated by Israel.
The minute Charlie was shot, he called me, says, "Dad, Charlie's been shot in the neck. Please call every pastor and pray." He had blood all over him. And
Pastor Rob McCoy also claims that Mikey is covered in blood.
6 hours after Charlie died.
don't you dare get in the way.
The Turning Point USA Wikipedia received a rather interesting update. Pastor Rob McCoy somehow got his own heading.
And then Candace Owens stepped in with a question that could shake the entire TPUSA establishment. At the center of the controversy, she revealed, was Charlie Kirk's former pastor, Rob McCoy. The revelations were so alarming that, according to Candace, McCoy began scrambling, searching for evidence, gathering documents, and even sending harsh messages directly to her. But the most disturbing detail wasn't Pastor McCoy's alleged involvement in Charlie's situation. Candace also claimed that Pastor McCoy had allowed a person with a criminal record to participate in church activities, someone who had direct access to young people attending the church. It was a chilling detail, one that left the public asking why such a decision was ever considered acceptable.
And I want to cut a deal with you. And I want to see if you want to do a plea bargain before we get to a pre-trial hearing.
So, if you haven't heard of Rob McCoy, he's the pastor at Godspeed Calvary Chapel and has been widely known as Charlie Kirk's best friend, spiritual mentor, and longtime companion. At least, that's the image people believed for years. But the question now is whether that friendship was as genuine as it appeared, or if there were layers of truth the public never knew. Because immediately after Charlie's passing, things began to unravel around Pastor McCoy and his son, Mikey McCoy, who served as TPUSA's chief of staff at the time Charlie lost his balance. The online community, which had been following the case closely, quickly noticed a strange detail about Mikey's behavior in the viral video taken moments before the incident. In that footage, Mikey does not rush to help, nor does he appear panicked. Instead, he calmly walks away with a phone already pressed to his ear, almost as if the call had already begun before Charlie collapsed. And that single moment lit the internet on fire. Who was Mikey McCoy talking to less than a second before Charlie Kirk fell? Some suggested he was calling Erika Kirk. Others believed it was Pastor Rob McCoy. But what's even more surprising is how each person at the center of this story tells a different version of events. Pastor Rob McCoy publicly stated that Mikey called him at the scene, claiming his son looked extremely distraught after witnessing the entire incident. But that account doesn't match the video that millions have now watched.
And I'm watching, the minute Charlie was shot, he called me, says, "Dad, Charlie's been shot in the neck. Please call every pastor and pray." It's okay, son. He has wits about him. He was just directing. He had blood all over him.
And if that's true, we circle back to the original questions. Why does Mikey look so calm? Why did the call start before anyone reacted? And why did the accounts from those closest to Charlie create more ambiguity instead of clarity? This is where the public's confusion begins. Not because they want to believe extreme theories, but because the timeline, the actions, and the statements simply do not line up. Every time one story seems clear, a new detail emerges that makes everything more complicated. Pastor Rob McCoy described Mikey as being covered in marks from the incident. But how? The video clearly shows Mikey walking away before Charlie Kirk lost his balance, and at no point did he approach him afterward. There is no visible contact, no moment in the footage that could explain such an injury. So why include that detail? Was Pastor McCoy trying to portray Mikey as a brave helper instead of someone who walked away calmly in the crucial moment? Then things take an even stranger turn. Erika Kirk claims she was the first person Mikey called after the incident. A New York Times article describes her words. Ms. Kirk was sitting in her mother's hospital room at 11:23 a.m. in Phoenix when she saw the call from her husband's longtime assistant, Mikey McCoy. She said she knew the words, "He's in trouble," even before Pastor McCoy screamed it. So now both Erika and Pastor Rob McCoy claim they were the first person Mikey called seconds after the incident. But that's impossible unless it was a group call, which neither of them mentions. And even if it were, the emotions and details don't match. Erika says Mikey sounded panicked, yelling, "He's in trouble." Rob claims Mikey calmly said they were aiming for Charlie's neck. Two different tones, two different statements, two different stories. And then there's the video. The footage is unmistakable. Mikey lifts the phone to his ear without dialing, swiping, or opening anything. No tapping, no movement, nothing. He acts as if the call had already begun before Charlie hit the ground. So what's really going on here? The issue isn't about blaming someone, it's about explaining the truth. Because right now we have a video that contradicts verbal accounts, two incompatible stories about the phone call, a detail about injuries that isn't supported by footage, and a man at the center of it all behaving unusually calm in a moment of chaos. The strange part isn't that the public is asking questions. The strange part is that every explanation makes the story more confusing. Timing, actions, testimony, video evidence. None of it fits together. And as those closest to Charlie Kirk provide conflicting versions of the truth, the public is left wondering what really happened in those first few seconds. Mikey McCoy is amazing. What started as a compliment has now become a viral meme, because online, more and more people are saying that Mikey's reaction looked unnatural. Some even believe he looked like someone who knew what was coming, rather than someone witnessing a sudden accident. And things become even more complicated when Erika Kirk, in her first emotional public appearance since her husband's death, has nothing but kind words for Mikey McCoy. Her voice trembling, she says,
"I want to thank the first responders who struggled heroically. And I want to thank the Turning Point USA board, the COO, Justin Strife, and my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy."
Wait a minute. Let's see that again.
And my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy.
This is the moment that made the internet explode. Because as Candace Owens pointed out, why is Mikey being praised as a hero when the video of his reaction shows the complete opposite? It's obvious to everyone. Mikey didn't panic, he didn't run to help, and he didn't rush toward Charlie Kirk. Instead, he calmly walked away while holding a phone to his ear. So why, in Erika Kirk's very first speech, out of hundreds of people she could have named, did she choose to praise Mikey, repeating the word amazing so deliberately? Some viewers thought it was a sincere thank you, but many others felt something was off. Because in multiple interviews and speeches across the Turning Point USA circle, Mikey, who is only 23 years old, is repeatedly described as a hero, great, amazing, almost as if someone is trying to craft a particular image for him at the very moment the public is questioning his behavior. One interview especially caught attention. An insider emotionally declared, "Let me tell you who the heroes are in this whole story. We'll start with Mikey McCoy, 23 years old." Moments later he added, "And that's when the great Mikey McCoy came along." The public couldn't help but wonder, why emphasize his name so obsessively when the clearest evidence, the video, doesn't show Mikey doing anything heroic? This raises an entirely new set of questions. Who is shaping this narrative? Who wants Mikey portrayed as the shining figure in this tragedy? And why is it so important to elevate his role exactly when people have begun questioning his reaction on that critical day? More and more, the public feels there is a quiet, coordinated effort to reshape Mikey's image.
In a Turning Point USA orbit, described Mikey McCoy in this very unique manner. I want you to take a listen to that.
Let me tell you who the heroes were in this whole thing. We're going to start with 23-year-old Mikey McCoy. And that's when the great Mikey McCoy showed up.
And my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy.
My friend Mikey McCoy, the brilliant 24-year-old who at the time when Charlie was shot was 23 and was a hero that day.
I used to be known as Charlie Kirk's pastor, now I'm known as Mikey McCoy's dad.
He clicked into gear eventually.
He did.
It was amazing. Mikey was a heroic figure on that day.
An inspiration. That's how some described him. Until the story suddenly took a completely different turn. Candace Owens has now revealed a disturbing new detail. Not about Mikey this time, but about his father, Pastor Rob McCoy. And this revelation makes all the glowing praise sound even more puzzling. According to Candace, Pastor McCoy once allowed a member of his congregation, a man with a criminal record, to participate in youth activities at the church. This immediately raised alarms. How could a church leader allow that without proper oversight? Why was such a risky decision made? But the story becomes even more serious. Candace shared that she received an email from a now adult individual who claimed to be the victim in that very case.
I hope I'm saying his last name right. Thomas Kimono was a man who was factually put away into prison. I'm going to read you an email that I received from one of his victims who is now an adult. I was 8 years old, living in Dana Point, California, when Thomas approached my friend and I to help him find his cat. He took us to a park behind my house and tried to molest me before I ran away. I was a key witness in his trial before he was sentenced to 8 years in prison.
What confused the public wasn't just the accusation itself. It was the fact that Pastor Rob McCoy not only allowed this man to interact with youth at his church, but also brought him on his podcast, offering him a platform to claim he had been wrongly convicted.
He goes, comes back guilty, unbelievably guilty, and I wind up give me an 8-year sentence, didn't have a record, so I did 4 years change. So I did 1,536 days for a crime that I didn't commit. That actually gets what?
For some people, this story serves as a reminder that wrongful convictions can happen. But for many others, allowing someone with a serious criminal history to work closely with teenagers is deeply confusing, if not entirely unacceptable. And then things become even more complicated when Candace Owens insists that the situation is far worse than anyone realizes. She suggests that what we're seeing is merely the tip of the iceberg, and whatever lies beneath could completely change how the public views Rob McCoy, how he operates, and why he seems so determined to protect his son's image. The big questions begin to surface. Why would a pastor take such a risk? Why does he continue pushing Mikey into the role of a hero when the viral video suggests the opposite? And why are these troubling details emerging precisely when people have begun questioning Mikey's reaction to Charlie Kirk's incident? What once seemed like a simple moment of praise and gratitude has now transformed into a web of unanswered questions. Questions about motives, hidden truths, and details the public never knew existed. But the most important part is that this is not speculation from Candace. The man she referred to was indeed convicted, served 8 years in prison, and that fact is a matter of public record, not debate. As soon as the information became public, many former members of Pastor McCoy's congregation began speaking out. Some claimed this was widely known within the church and that many families had left because of it. One person on X even wrote, "I left right after I was baptized there because of this." When people asked why Thomas Camino was allowed to lead small groups and interact with teenagers, the explanation given was simply that it was a mistake and that the leadership believed he had changed. Yet in Pastor McCoy's podcast with Camino, a conversation lasting over an hour, he didn't condemn the incident, didn't offer warnings, and instead allowed Camino to claim he had been wrongly convicted and spent 1,736 days in prison for a crime he didn't commit. This left the community asking, why would a pastor allow this? Why didn't he look more closely? And why did he publicly platform someone with such a serious past without addressing the risks? The confusion grows even deeper when examining the sermon Pastor Rob McCoy delivered shortly before Charlie Kirk's incident. In it, he claimed that Charlie had changed his views after a meeting in Hampton, as though there had been some major ideological shift that Charlie himself had never publicly discussed. McCoy said, "We were at the pastor's summit. It was extraordinary." He then claimed Charlie had shifted the debate on Israel within the Christian community and was now focused on Islam, saying he is against Islam, which is extraordinary, but the threats against him have increased rapidly since then because it is a religion of peace. Listeners paused in confusion. McCoy first said Charlie was avoiding tension over Israel, then immediately claimed he was shifting to another subject and receiving more threats. There was no confirmation from Erika Kirk, no confirmation from TPUSA, and no statements from Charlie to support any of what McCoy asserted. So why did Rob tell that story as if it were fact? Based on what conversation? Based on what evidence? Even Candace Owens publicly asked, "What are you talking about? And why are you saying that?" McCoy's timeline doesn't match public records, witnesses, or anything Charlie ever said. And the troubling part is this. Each time McCoy speaks about Charlie, the picture becomes more confusing, not clearer. When placed next to the earlier detail that he once allowed individuals with sensitive pasts to interact with youth, the community begins to wonder whether Pastor McCoy is accidentally revealing more than he intends, attempting to steer the story in a particular direction, or hiding something that hasn't yet come to light. Taken together, the contradictions form a concerning pattern. The largest question emerging now is, why do all the details surrounding Rob McCoy, from congregation behavior to the podcast to his story about Charlie, contain so many strange inconsistencies? Why did he claim Charlie received threats after supposedly changing his stance? That single detail raised a heavy theory. Was someone trying to steer the narrative toward the Muslim community before Tyler Robinson's name ever appeared in any report? It's a serious claim, but McCoy's words inadvertently opened the door to it. And it didn't stop there. Podcaster Baron Coleman conducted a live video analysis of McCoy's sermon. Mid-live stream, in front of thousands, McCoy suddenly made the sermon private and removed it from his YouTube channel. This created an immediate uproar. If it was just a sermon, why delete it? Why hide it precisely when someone was analyzing it? Why the instant removal, as though trying to erase any trace of it? The questions multiplied. If there was nothing to hide, why remove the video? Why delete it at the exact moment scrutiny increased? Why act so quickly as if something damaging might be uncovered? Even Candace made a bold observation. Pastor McCoy seems to have many secrets. Then came another revelation. Most members of TPUSA's Faith Advisory Group are former military personnel. And even more startling, Rob McCoy's father is a Navy captain who reportedly served as Assistant Chief of Staff in psychological warfare, a field focused on communication, perception, and information control. With all this in mind, people are now asking, who is Rob McCoy really, and what role is he actually playing in this story? Because it's impossible to ignore the fact that a pastor whose father specialized in psychological warfare was the one urging the public not to question, analyze, or discuss Charlie's passing or the views Charlie held before his death. Why would a pastor discourage questions when faith is most challenged? Why was he the only person offering details no one else corroborated? And why does every statement he makes add confusion instead of clarity? The public can't ignore the pattern. McCoy doesn't simply recount events, he seems to shape them. He injects themes of threat, religious conflict, and ideological shifts, crafting a narrative that feels decisive but collapses under scrutiny. And when his sermon came under review, he deleted it immediately. This leads to the unavoidable question: is Rob McCoy trying to control the narrative or trying to hide something? Because no matter how you interpret it, his contradictions, his actions, and his deletions reflect someone who fears scrutiny. One thing is undeniable. Every time Rob McCoy enters the story, it becomes harder, not easier to understand. And that is why the public continues to question his true role in all of this. If you've made it this far, thank you for examining the details that so many ignore. This story is filled with gaps, contradictions, and truths that no one seems to be willing to explain. And you, the viewers, are the reason these questions won't disappear. So let me know what you think. What's really going on? Who is controlling the narrative? And what is still being hidden? Every comment helps bring the truth closer. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next part will be even more controversial. And as always, this content is based on public sources and online discussions. We report what the public is already questioning. Everything here is for commentary and entertainment purposes only.